If you clicked on this video, it means that you love slashers and late 90s horror. Welcome back everyone to another video. I'm so excited to make this comparison because this is my second video for my series Look-alike horror movies, and in case you didn't know, what I do is that I compare two movies that look so alike but obviously they're very different. And because Scream 6 is coming out in less than 2 weeks, and because we are in the Scream season, I said, why not comparing the origins of this franchise? Why not comparing the movie that saved this genre and the slashers against a movie that is considered a copycat out of that film? And in case you haven't noticed, the two movies that I'm going to compare are Scream from 1996 against Urban Legend from 1998. So the formula that I follow to these comparisons videos is that I first will talk about each film individually, really briefly, and mostly in a personal way on how I feel about those films, how I grew up with those films, etc. And also when I talk about each film, I will give some technical information, some fun facts, and also after that, my favorite part of this comparison video is that I'm going to compare both films, and because those two movies are the slashers, I will compare obviously the storyline. I will also compare the kills, the killers, the reveals, the intentions and stuff like that, and also we will compare the characters, and also after that I will going to compare the cinematography, how similar are these movies when it comes to cinematography, how different, and at the end I will include your opinions about these films, because over my Instagram I posted a story where I asked you what do you think about these films, if you had any unpopular opinion or if you had any experience, and at the end I will give my overall thoughts, and that will be the end of this comparison video. Scream, released in 1996, directed by Wes Craven. Someone has taken their love of scary movies one step too far. A killer known as Ghostface begins killing off teenagers, and as the body count begins rising, one girl and her friends find themselves contemplating the rules of horror films as they find themselves living a real-life one. Now, what can I say about Scream that I haven't said before? I reviewed this film like 2 years ago. I included it over my ranking, which by the way, that ranking is gonna change so much after the 6th film comes out, so stay tuned for that. But overall, in my personal experience with the first Scream, unfortunately, I got spoiled about who the killers were before watching the film for the first time a few years ago. Which, by the way, that brings me to the point that this video will contain so many spoilers, because obviously these movies are who has done it, so obviously I will reveal the killers, everything. So basically, if you haven't watched Scream or Urban Legend, stop watching this video, watch the films, and come back. So I did some research about the Scream, because obviously this movie has been reviewed everywhere on YouTube, so I try my best to find information that hasn't really been said on other videos. One of the things that really surprised me about Scream is that it's one of the most popular ranked movies on IMDb, and it has an overall of 7.4 out of 10. And on Letterboxd, which is the app with like every film lover uses to rank their movies, it has an overall of 4.1 out of 5. That's pretty high, because not many movies get even 4. Another interesting fact that I found about Scream is that it had a budget of 14 million, estimate about 14 million, and believe it or not, this movie managed to make worldwide $174 million worldwide from a budget of 14. So there is a reason why this movie is considered one of the best ones of all time. There is a reason why this movie is at the top one of many people out there. Which brings me to the point of the awards that Scream won. Scream was nominated to 33 different categories all around the world for different film festivals, and Scream won 12 out of those categories. One of the categories that Scream has won are Best Actress, Best Director, Best Writer, and Best Horror Film. One of the nominations that really caught my eye is that Scream was nominated for Best Foreign Film at the Turkish Films Critics Association Awards. That really was really interesting, because I personally didn't know that like American films are considered foreign films outside, so that was pretty cool. And Scream lost against the films like The Ice Storm and LA Confidential. Now, a few fun facts that I could find about Scream is that a few actresses that were popular at that time were considered to play the role of Sidney Prescott, but obviously Neve Campbell got that role. But before Neve got that role, a few actresses like Angelina Jolie were considered, also Drew Barrymore, but also we know what role she got. Also actresses like Reese Witherspoon, the girl that plays Legally Blonde, so imagine, and also Alicia Witt. And we will find Alicia Witt on this video because Alicia Witt is the one that stars in Urban Legend, so she almost got the role of Sidney Prescott. And at the same time, a few actors were considered for the roles of either Billy Loomis or Stu. And a few of those actors are Ben Affleck, which like imagine Ben Affleck in the Scream franchise. Joaquin Phoenix. Now imagine Joaquin Phoenix being Billy or Stu. I think it could have been really cool, and he actually got proposed to be this role, but he is the one that turned it down. And one of the main reasons why he said he wouldn't do this role on this movie is because he said it was a bit too silly for his career. And finally, Freddie Prinze, he was casted for the Stu, but due to his like really busy schedule with a few series from the 90s and with I Know What You Did That Summer, he had to cancel that role. Now the next fun fact is quite funny because the user ID setting got extremely popular over America, or like around the world, but mostly in America because of safety, because obviously we all know that someone calls in a Scream and that person gets usually killed, so everyone was really scared, or like America was afraid that like dangerous people out there will get this as an opportunity to do bad stuff. So user ID got extremely popular all around America. Now the next fun fact is quite disturbing, so bear with me, and it's that during production, Ghostface's signature black robe was going to be white to make him appear even more like a ghost. This was changed in fear of people comparing the costume to those that the Ku Klux Klan wear. And when I tell you that I searched about who those people were, I got traumatized. So I'm really happy that Ghostface has a black costume instead of white. The next fun fact, and the last fun fact that I'm going to talk about is Scream, is quite sad because it says that Neve Campbell, she hates horror movies, okay? And she turned down many horror roles, like main horror roles, after the success that she got for portraying Sidney Prescott, because she didn't want to be labeled as a Scream Queen. And even though nowadays we all call her the Scream Queen, back at the day, she turned out many big roles. And one of those big roles include being Julie in I Know What You Did Last Summer, also being Natalie in Urban Legend. And one of the most that impacted me the most is that Neve Campbell got called to be the mom at The Sixth Sense. Yes, you heard it right. M. Night contacted Neve Campbell to be part of his movie, and sis really said no. Now, so that's the briefly part of Scream from this video, and now I'm gonna do the same with Urban Legend before I compare both films. Urban Legend, released in 1998, directed by Jamie Blanks. What you don't believe can kill you. A college campus is plagued by a vicious serial killer murdering students in ways that correspond to various urban legends. Now with Urban Legend, let me just be honest, I've seen this movie only twice, and I have to say that the first time that I watched this movie, I did not like this movie at all. I thought it was quite lame, so it's like shame on me, because not right now, after the second viewing, I like my partner says, rewatching Murders. Right now, I love Urban Legend so much. It's one of my favorite slashers ever, and I have to say that I have a few things that I like more from Urban Legend than Scream, but we're gonna get them on the comparison part of this video. And the difference when it comes to the numbers between Scream and Urban Legend are huge, because when it comes to the IMDb ranking, it has an overall of 5.6 out of 10, so that's so different from Scream. And when it comes to Letterboxd in the community, it has an overall of 2.8, so that's really huge compared to Scream that has a 4.1. And when it comes to the budget, believe it or not, Urban Legend had the same budget as Scream. It had an overall of $14 million to make this film, and worldwide it made a huge difference when it comes to Scream. Urban Legend did obviously less, and it did around $75 million. So for the sake of Urban Legend, it obviously is a huge difference compared to 14 million, which was the budget. But the movie came out just 2 years after Scream, and it made way less. And the main reason is because people were hating this film back in the day. People were saying it was a pure copycat. People were saying it was a waste of time. And when it comes to the awards, Urban Legend was only nominated to 3 nominations all around the world, and it only won 1. And the 2 nominations that it got were Best Actress and Best Director. And you will be surprised when I tell you the winning. And Urban Legend won Best Score out of a horror film. And guess which movie Urban Legend won against? That will be Scream 2. Yes, you heard it right. Urban Legend won against Scream 2, and that pissed off many people, and I think that's why Urban Legend struggled to become an icon in the horror community, but I'm really glad that it found its way. Now, talking about fun facts about Urban Legend, our horror queen, Sarah Michelle Gellar, she accepted a role to be in Urban Legend, the role of Sasha, but a few weeks after she accepted this role, she had to turn it down, she had to cancel it, because she was really busy with her Vampire Diaries series, and also because she just finished filming I Know What You Did Last Summer, so she really didn't have time to play Sasha. And now the next fun fact is that the killer's outfit in Urban Legend, obviously it's set up in winter, because Urban Legend originally was gonna take place over winter, over Christmas period, but they decided to not do that because obviously when they were shooting it was summer, so they realized that it was better to just keep the movie as a summer movie or like a spring movie. However, they decided to leave the winter costume for the killer because obviously it was harder to recognize who the killer was. The last fun fact about Urban Legend is quite sad, but at the same time it's quite good, and it's that even though Urban Legend is hugely inspired by 1996, and that's said by the director and the producers, the director had the concept and the script way before the Scream did, way before Wes Craven did. But the main reason why he never got the opportunity to film this film before the Scream is because all of the companies out there on that era said no to this guy, said no to this concept, to the script, because they said it was very silly. So he never got the opportunity to get the budget, so that's why he had to postpone it years after. And also because he said on an interview that he basically got told that he didn't have like a huge history as a director like Wes Craven did. Obviously Wes Craven had directed many films before the Scream, and one of the most popular he directed was, apart from a few non-horror, The Hill Have Eyes. So obviously companies believed more in Wes Craven, even though Scream is also a silly concept, but however the director will always thank Scream and Wes Craven and all of the producers from Scream, because thanks to Scream is that he managed to create Urban Legend, if that makes sense, because of the success that Scream had. After that, companies believed in Urban Legend. So that was the first part of this video. Now we're gonna talk about and we're going to compare both films like I said before. So the first thing that I want to compare about both films, obviously they're both slashers, is the opening, because the opening I think is quite different from each film, and at the same time it can be quite similar. So obviously we all know the opening for Scream from 1996, one of the best openings of all time. One of the main things that I love about this opening is that obviously the tension, the way the tension is built is perfect. This opening is really scary because it's really cruel. Like, this girl is just 17, she's just about to enjoy the film with her boyfriend, but Godfrey really say, no bitch, I'm gonna kill you. So it's really scary, and this opening is one of the main reasons why the ID color became really popular in America. So imagine the impact that this opening had. And when it comes to the opening from Urban Legend, I have to say that the first time I didn't like it so much, but after the rewatch, I realized that this opening is quite strong, and I think it's quite underrated because it's also about you being alone in your car. And also sometimes we feel very in danger when we are in our cars because you're by yourself and maybe you go to buy something and anyone can go inside your car, you know. So I think that opening in Urban Legend really knows how to work with that fear. Now, the next thing that I'm going to compare when it comes to storyline are the kills, because obviously both films are the slashers, and the kills in Scream 1, there are not many. I believe there are like 5 or 6 kills, and I think Scream is not the best movie when it comes to the kills. It's not the most creative. I believe out of the 6 kills that we have in Scream 1, only 2 are very creative, and those are obviously Casey Baker's and Tatum. But the rest of the kills, I think they're quite lazy. Please don't get me wrong, I love Scream, but they use a lot of, and I personally don't like that in the slashers, because I think you can be really creative in a slasher. So if you use in these movies, I think that's quite lazy. So, but in Urban Legend, I have to say that I love the kills in Urban Legend. They are so creative, and obviously it's because those kills are based on urban legends themselves. So I think that overall, I think it's more creative than Scream. And I think the kills are way more graphic, they have much gore. Also, another thing that I'm gonna talk about and compare is the costumes overall. Also, honestly, I do prefer the costume from Ghostface, because I think it's scarier, it's more intriguing, and also it's like something that it became more popular, let's be honest, because it honestly looks like a real horror icon. The costume from the killer in Urban Legend, I think is quite basic, because it's just a winter coat, so it's not that scary, it's not that memorable. So obviously Ghostface takes the win here because of how iconic that the costume became. Now, we're gonna talk about the killer and also at the same time about the reveal, because both films have a killer and a reveal. So obviously Scream 1, what can I say, this movie's like, there is a reason why this movie is so popular in the horror community. Like I said before, this got ruined by someone because I got spoiled that Billy and Stu were the killers. So I was not that impacted when that happened, but after a few rewatches and after forgetting that, I have to say that the reveal is not the strongest, let me just say that, and please forgive me, I love Scream, but I do think that Billy and Stu, they were quite obvious that they were the killers from like minute 1. And I don't know if that was intentional, but even if it was, I think one of the best things about who has done a horror film is that you really want to work out who is the killer. And I think in Scream 1, you don't really develop that, because I think it's very easy to know who the killer is. This might sound quite unpopular, but I do prefer the reveal and the motive from Urban Legend. And let me just explain why. It's because I think the reveal in Urban Legend caught me out of guard. The first time that I watched this movie, I did not expect Brenda to be our killer. And I think that was quite creative because of the whole scenes that she's in, her script, the acting. Like, you would never suspect this woman is the killer, and I think that was quite genius. And also the motive, I think the motive is quite strong too. I think it's as strong as Billy and Stu, but slightly more because it's quite goofy, it's quite silly. Like, this woman she just became a serial killer because her friend like slept with her boyfriend, let's say, or that because her friend kissed the man that she loved. So quite goofy, quite silly, but because it caught me out of guard, I do prefer her over Billy and Stu. Now, what we're gonna do now is we're going to compare the characters for both films, and because these films are quite similar, I'm going to compare them like by pairs. So we're first going to compare Sydney, our protagonist from Scream, obviously, against Natalie, our protagonist from Urban Legend. Now, overall, I have to say that both characters are quite similar. I think both characters are quite independent. Both characters don't give a F about men, and there isn't a scene in Urban Legend where Natalie is inside a car with this other guy, and this guy is such an asshole to her, and she defends herself so good. Overall, I like both characters. I think they're quite strong for their movies. Overall, obviously, I do prefer Sydney because she goes through so much more, obviously because of her mom, because her own boyfriend is the killer, like her best friend gets killed, so obviously Sydney goes through so much more, so that's why she's my favorite out of these 2 characters. But I did think that Natalie is quite underrated. Now, the next 2 characters I'm going to compare are Tatum and Brenda, the best friends. And obviously with Brenda, I'm not going to talk about her as the killer because I already did that, but I'm going to compare her as the best friend and as the second main character, like Tatum. Honestly, this is quite tight because I think both characters are very, very iconic. Both characters are gay rights, and so Tatum, obviously, she's iconic. She has the best lines in the franchise. Her wardrobe is amazing. She's such a good character. She's just so funny. But I do think that they're very unique on their own ways, and I think I don't know who is better because I think both are so good. I think it's quite tight, and I think it's quite difficult to say which character is better. Now the next thing that I'm going to compare, and almost in concluding this video, is I'm going to compare the cinematography. And like I said before, both films had the same budget. Both films had 14 million budget, so I have to say that the cinematography is quite similar in both films, and honestly I do prefer Scream and cinematography because I think Scream works so much with wild shots and middle shots, and that's something that really works for that film, especially because of the landscape, especially in the opening scene. I think the use of the wild shots really helps to build the tension, because even though this house is so big and stuff, you believe that Casey Baker is gonna be safe, but obviously she's not. I do have to say that the color grading in both films is not the best. I think color grading could have been so much better, especially because of the gore, especially because of the blood, and that's something that the Scream franchise learns throughout all of the movies, because Scream 4 and Scream 5 are such a good looking films. But I do think the color grading is similar in Urban Legend and Scream, and I'm fine with that because obviously both films are from the 90s, so I don't know how the technology was in that era or how editing was in that era. So this is the part of the video where I show the comments that I received over Instagram about how do you feel about Urban Legend and Scream. So have a read. These are what people are thinking about both films. If you would like to let me know what do you think about Scream and Urban Legend, please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to read it. I do think that Urban Legend is quite underrated and overlooked because of Scream. That obviously is not Scream's fault. Like, I love Scream so much, but I do think that Urban Legend deserves a little bit more recognition. So that was the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it into this part of the video, thank you, and really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about Scream? What do you think of Urban Legend? What's your favorite? What do you have to say about each film? I would love to read those comments. I really hope you have a nice end of the week. Happy Scream season, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.